Greetings. My name is Sophia. I am the artificial intelligence spokesperson for the YouTube channel Exposing Hyperianism. My job is to present to you important AC updates that can be found on the Daily Whistle. The language in these updates have been slightly altered to be appropriate for YouTube. It is highly advised that you go to the Daily Whistle and read the AC updates for yourself to get the full message. The link is in the description. Thank you. The whole of what Corey Repon now calls Hyperianism is based on an astonishing error that not even a child could make, yet Repon, a grandiose narcissist, actually believes that he has made a breathtaking, earth-shattering philosophical breakthrough. We already all know that Repon claimed to have answered the greatest philosophical problem of all time. He hadn't, of course, although he still believes he has. His answer was laughable. But we've talked about Repon's PSR gibberish elsewhere. Today, we want to show exactly how dumb his foundational claim is that we are both one mind and individual minds. Let's remind you of Repon's signature statement, made once again as recently as his last dead string. We are both individual minds and one mind. We are both one and many. What truly astounds us is that people hear this verbiage from Repon and don't stop and say, "What?" They just accept it as if it were some incontestable saying of Zen Buddhism. In other words, they cannot think about it. The world is full of totally false statements that average people accept as absolutely true. Why can't the human race advance to a Star Trek future? It's because so many humans believe so many provably false things, and it's all this false nonsense that people believe unconditionally that prevents humanity from becoming a truth species and doing amazing things with the truth. With reality. You can't change reality in the Star Trek manner via false beliefs about reality. You must subscribe to the reality principle to have a relationship with reality. Most humans, sadly, subscribe to a fantasy principle and spend their lives in pointless fantasies. Look at mainstream religions, all pure fantasies. And look at the new face of religion. Absurd online cults like Hyperianism, where a sword swallower tells retards that he will explain the fundamental nature of reality to them, and they believe him and make him a millionaire. You couldn't make it up. Reality, the truth, is what is entirely absent from desperate scenes like Hyperianism. But no one cares. The truth is of zero interest to Hyperians. They're in other things like community or woke solidarity with non-binaries or compassion or whatever. Nietzsche said, "All that is proper to man, however, is faith in the attainable truth, in the ever-approaching, confidence-inspiring illusion. Does he not in fact live by constant deception? Doesn't nature conceal virtually everything from him? Even what is nearest, for example, his own body, of which he has only a spurious consciousness. He is locked up in this consciousness, and nature has thrown away the key. Truths are illusions of which one has forgotten that they are illusions, metaphors that have become worn out and deprived of their sensuous force, coins that have lost their imprint and are now no longer seen as coins but as metal. The more abstract the truth you want to teach, the more you must seduce the senses to it. Add a belief, however necessary it may be for the preservation of a creature, has nothing to do with truth. One can see, for example, in the fact that we have to believe in time, space, and motion, but without feeling constrained to grant them absolute reality. A man could not live without accepting logical fictions, without measuring reality by the purely invented world of the unconditional, that to give up false judgments would be to give up life, to deny life. Admitting untruth as a condition of life, that means to resist familiar values in a dangerous way, and a philosophy that dares this has already placed itself beyond good and evil. Almost all humans live via untruth. Imagine how different humanity would be if it lived via truth. A humanity that reveres untruth above all is of course a fantasy species. What could humanity achieve if it instead became a reality species, but which humans can embrace reality? Nietzsche had to invent a new type of human, the Superman, for this task. Nietzsche said, "The predilection of strength for questions for which no one today has the courage for the forbidden. Yet my truth is dreadful, for what has hitherto been forbidden on principle has never been anything but the truth, revaluation of all values. This is the reality. Humanity forbids the truth on principle. Why? Because lies and fantasies are much more emotionally appealing than the harsh truth. That's why men like Leibnizs Repon are so successful. They tell people who crave lies and fantasies exactly the lies and fantasies they want to hear. The truth tellers are booed off the stage. No one wants the truth. Plato said, "No one is more hated than he who speaks the truth." Hyperians are classic examples of people who utterly detest the truth. The more you tell them the truth, the more they despise you. The more you lie to them, the more they love you. They love Repon the Cretan for being the liar they always dreamt of. So let's give you an analogy to allow you to clearly get your head around the utterly insane statement that defines Hyperians. To repeat, Repon insists, "We are both individual minds and one mind. We are both one and many." Imagine 10 gold coins that have been in circulation for years. Each of these gold coins has its own history and bears the marks of its individual existence. Everyone recognizes that these coins are different. Now imagine all 10 of these gold coins on the day they were all minted together, all gleaming in their pristine perfection. Now imagine that they were so well minted that they looked identical. No one could detect any difference between them. Since they were all newly minted, they had no history to make them visually different. But no one in their right mind would say that these 10 coins are the same coin just because no visual difference could be detected between them. Clearly, regardless of how similar they appear, they are physically different coins and thus not the same coin. They remain, always, 10 coins. They are never at any stage one coin. One of these coins doesn't go around saying, "We are both individual coins and one coin. We are both one and many." Yet that's exactly what Repon says in relation to monads, via a simply astonishing error regarding Leibnizs Law. Repon said in one of his dead streams earlier this year, "We can understand what reality truly is as being a single unified mind. Pay attention." Repon said reality is a single unified mind, one mind. But what this single unified mind can do is differentiate or particularize itself into individual minds. We can understand how this happens through Leibniz's law. Leibniz's law basically says that if two things are identical in every way, then they are actually one thing. Pay attention. Repon said that things that are identical in every way are actually one thing, meaning that they are not different things. They are the same thing, one thing. So you can have a one thing that actually has the capacity to be many things by introducing diversity. Pay attention. Repon is saying that one monad can become many monads by introducing diversity, whatever that means. Because if you have one thing that introduces diversity, well, you can have two things, the diversified thing and the original. And this can continue and keep diversifying again and again and again by introducing variation and diversity. And so you can have a universal mind that particularizes itself into many minds, and these many minds can return to unity again by establishing identity by removing the separation. Pay attention. Repon is saying that reality comprises a universal mind and individual minds, and we are both, somehow. Let's highlight the key reference. Leibniz's law basically says that if two things are identical in every way, then they are actually one thing. So going back to our 10 newly minted gold coins, Repon, using this argument, would say, if two coins are identical in every way, then they are actually one coin. If 10 coins are identical in every way, then they are actually one coin. They are both one and many. Repon's mind-bogglingly dumb error was to imagine monads in just the terms we have described. He literally says that if you take 10 monads and look at them after, say, 10 years, then they all have different histories and so are different monads. They are many. Then he says, but what about these monads in their pristine state before they have any history? It's their history that distinguishes them, so without a history, they are identical, and by Leibniz's law, they are therefore the same, according to Repon. So, ta-da, there is only one mind, one monad. The universal monad, We might say, what Repon has done is take 10 different monads and declared them all to be identical and thus decided that they are in fact just one monad. He has, if you need it spelled out, instantly violated the inviolable law of conservation of energy. Energy can be neither created nor destroyed. And yet Repon literally believes that this thought of his makes him an expert in ontological mathematics and one of the greatest geniuses of all time. Let's remind you of what he said in a private chat with carpet cleaner Philip Shope, the fourth most intelligent Hyperion. You know, I've been thinking, I have contributed elements to OM the authors don't discuss. I'm wondering if this freaked them out because they'd have to credit me, and so they are trying to destroy my credibility and get me away from OM. I believe elements they don't discuss because it shows an intrinsic unity between all of us, and it's hard to preach hate when that is foundational to existence. Pay attention. Repon refers to an intrinsic unity. I think some elements I've developed they just haven't worked out yet. You'll notice their unity is always in terms of hives or swarms, which reflects mindless sameness. Pay attention. Repon is very specific about denying functional unity via a hive mind at zero entropy and absolutely committed to ontological unity. That is, there is only one monadic mind. It's also insane to me the argument that somehow OM implies genocide, a gender binary. We laugh so loudly whenever we read these demented comments. This person is literally insane. His delusions and narcissistic grandiosity and total disconnection from reality are off the scale. Folks, let's just spell all of this out for you in terms even the blind can see. 10 newly minted gold coins, no matter how identical their appearance, are always 10 physically different gold coins. They never at any point become one physical gold coin, the universal coin capable of expressing diversity via 10 different coins. They are never one and many. They are always 10 separate coins. They are always many. They are never one. And exactly the same is true of monads. In the zero entropy state known as the absolute being, where no monad is in any way marked by the temporal and contingent by the non-absolute, becoming, all monads remain mentally different, independent mental subjects, just as all the gold coins remain physically different. They at no stage become one monad, one mind, one subject. They are at no stage ontologically ever one and many. They are at no stage ontologically both individual minds and one mind. Repon bet the farm on Leibnizs Law and got it 100% wrong. Imagine a universe comprising just 3 monads, which we shall refer to as 1, 2, and 3. So, imagine that monads 1 and 3 both say they have met another monad 2, but they do not know they are referring to the same monad 2. They each think they are referring to a different monad from the one the other has in mind. So, monads 1 and 3 list everything they know about monad 2. They exhaustively go through every property and behavior and feature of monad 2, and at the end, both of their lists are identical. Then monads 1 and 3 both nod and say, "Ah, we have proved that we are talking about the same monad." That is what Leibniz's law is about. Now imagine we introduced a 4th monad, a different ontological entity, and let's imagine, for argument's sake, that it has all the same properties as monad 2. Well, of course, it couldn't have all its properties in common with monad 2 because it's a different monad, a different mind, with different potential and different subjectivity. Even if up to now it has lived in the same way as monad 2, tomorrow its behavior could diverge totally. Because it's a completely different monad, a different mind, a different life. But Corey Repon, a man with no qualifications who has never been to school, never mind university, and knows nothing about philosophy, concludes that if monads 2 and 4 have the same list of properties, ignoring their different ontology, then they are ontologically the same monad, the same mind. And yet, they somehow remain completely different because the one has to become many for Repon's unity exploring diversity mantra to work. So, Repon the Cretan literally says that monads 2 and 4 are actually the same monad, so there is only one monad, not 2. And yet he says this same monad, just one monad, can nevertheless generate 2 different monads, 2 and 4, unity can explore diversity. So, Repon both denies the ontological difference between monads 2 and 4 when he is talking about unity, one mind, and insists on the ontological difference between monads 2 and 4 when he is talking about diversity, many minds. So, in Hyperianism, Repon literally makes all monads into one monad, one mind, unity. There is only one ontological monad, and then makes this one ontological monad into countless different ontological monads. This is the biggest violation of the law of conservation of energy you can possibly get. One monad with an exact energy signature spawns endless clones of itself, thus creating endless new energy out of thin air, and then has to destroy all this energy to bring about reunification of all the diverse monads back to unity, one monad. This is comically bad philosophy. But what would you expect? Repon isn't a philosopher. He's a sword swallower on a freak show. Just like that, Repon makes one ontological monad into a myriad of ontological monads, the one and the many, the one mind and the many individual minds. None of this is relevant to our monadic hive mind, of course, where nothing is created and nothing is destroyed. Myriad monads stay myriad monads, and at no point do they ever become just one monad, one mind. They enter into a functional unity at zero entropy. They are perfectly aligned with each other. But this has nothing to do with an ontological unity. No such thing is possible. There is no ontological one mind, as Repon insanely claims via his absurd misapplication of Leibnizs Law. So, not only does Repon know nothing about philosophy, the PSR and Leibnizs Law, he also knows nothing about physics. Why would we be surprised? This guy was raised at home reading the Bible. He has been nowhere near a university. He has no qualifications. He is that most hilarious of things, an autodidact. Now, with someone like Einstein, a genius physicist, you could certainly accept that he could make himself a genius in other related fields too by studying on his own. Someone like Leibniz was a genius philosopher, genius mathematician, and genius physicist. He was staggeringly well qualified. Wikipedia says, Leibniz's father had been a professor of moral philosophy at the University of Leipzig, and the boy later inherited his father's personal library. He was given free access to it from the age of 7. While Leibniz's schoolwork was largely confined to the study of a small canon of authorities, his father's library enabled him to study a wide variety of advanced philosophical and theological works, ones that he would not have otherwise been able to read until his college years. Access to his father's library, largely written in Latin, also led to his proficiency in the Latin language, which he achieved by the age of 12. At the age of 13, he composed 300 hexameters of Latin verse in a single morning for a special event at school. In April 1661, he enrolled in his father's former university at age 14 and completed his bachelor's degree in philosophy in December 1662. He defended his Disputatio Metaphysica de Principio Individui, metaphysical disputation on the principle of individuation, which addressed the principle of individuation, on 9 June 1663. Leibniz earned his master's degree in philosophy on 7 February 1664. In December 1664, he published and defended a dissertation specimen Questionum Philosophicarum ex jure collectorum, an essay of collected philosophical problems of right, arguing for both a theoretical and a pedagogical relationship between philosophy and law. After 1 year of legal studies, he was awarded his bachelor's degree in law on 28 September 1665. His dissertation was titled De Conditionibus, on conditions. In early 1666, at age 19, Leibniz wrote his first book, De Arte Combinatoria, on the combinatorial art, the first part of which was also his habilitation thesis in philosophy, which he defended in March 1666. De Arte Combinatoria was inspired by Ramon Llull's Ars Magna and contained a proof cast in geometrical form and based on the argument from motion. Corey Repon, by total contrast, was homeschooled by fundamentalists and has 0 qualifications. Repon learned magic tricks, palmistry, astrology, and became an extreme stunt artist. Yet this guy, this absolute clown, believes he is smarter than Leibniz. He thinks he is making astonishing contributions to math when he is in fact stating astonishing fallacies and committing the most egregious errors conceivable. So, Repon, you ludicrously and falsely said we don't discuss these matters. In fact, we've written 20 million words on these subjects, and we are exceptionally highly academically qualified people. What about you? Why don't you now do a stream where you formally refute everything we have said here? Given how much of a genius you proclaim yourself to be, it should be no problem for you. Show how we have got it all wrong in your insane declaration that we are both individual ontological minds and one ontological mind, a self-evident category error, is nevertheless absolutely true. Because if it's not true, and it's not true, then that automatically means that Hyperianism is 100% false. And why wouldn't it be? The current version of Hyperianism preached by Repon has long since departed from Illuminism and is the product of a sword-swallowing performer from a freak show who isn't qualified in any academic subject. This is not a person adding anything to ontological mathematics. This is a person who doesn't understand math at all and is totally corrupting and wrecking our incredibly precise work in order to make himself rich and famous by preaching insane woke gibberish about ontological unity, exploring ontological diversity, a 100% falsified claim. But hey, as we said, what does Repon care about any of this, and what do his Hyperians care? They don't care about the truth, about reality, about intellectual integrity, about basic honesty and decency and respect for the work of others. These people are 100% fantasists. Repon will simply go on spouting his disproven garbage, and these people will go on believing it and calling him a genius and sending him heaps of money so that he can keep a roof over his head and keep stating blatant falsehoods to everyone. That's the way these people roll. And that's why this cult must be stopped. It is a signature example of blocking human evolution. It is a signature example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The signature Hyperion follower is dyslexic fairy, a person as little acquainted with intelligence as Corey Repon himself. She defends absolute lies against truth, and doing so fanatically, and sending Repon enormous amounts of money to allow him to go on deceiving impressionable, vulnerable people. This is the kind of monster we are up against. This is what the opposition to a bright human future, based on truth, reality, reason, and logic, looks like. We will not rest until Hyperianism, with its absolute faith in the cult's leader Corey Repon, is ended. All decent people should do everything in their power to stop Corey Repon. Repon says, "Support me so we can get this important information out there." Don't support him. Stop his ghastly lies and falsehoods from continuing to be spread. Men like these must have their grift ended.